Professor Rajesh from Cambridge Institute of Technology, Bangalore. In today's session, I'll be discussing about C program to print the binomial coefficient and storage classes in C. Now let us see the first program, that is C program to print the binomial coefficient. What is a binomial coefficient? Now a binomial coefficient n comma r is the order of choosing r result from the given n possibilities. So in order to find the binomial coefficient, n and r should be the positive value. Always the n value should be greater than the r value. So basically we are trying to choose r result from the given n possibilities. And the formula is NCR is equals to n factorial divided by n minus r factorial into r factorial is the formula to find the binomial coefficient. For example, if the n value is given as 4 and the r value is given as 2, how do we find the binomial coefficient of this? This can be done by substituting the n and r value in the formula. When we substitute the n value and r value in the formula, 4c2 is equals to 4 factorial divided by 4 minus 2 factorial into 2 factorial. Now we have to find the factorial for the numerator as well as the denominator. Now 4 factorial, what is 4 factorial? As we know, 4 factorial is nothing but 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Next in the denominator, 4 minus 2. What is 4 minus 2? 4 minus 2 is 2. So 2 factorial is nothing but 2 into 1. Again we are finding 2 factorial. 2 factorial is nothing but 2 into 1. So when I multiply all the numerator value, I'll be getting 24. When I multiply the denominator value, I'll be getting 4. Again, when I try to divide the values, 24 divided by 4, I'll be getting 6. 6 is the binomial coefficient of the given number. Now, how do we apply this particular logic in the program? So this formula is very important when you are when I'll be explaining the program. Please do remember it. NCR is equals to n factorial divided by n minus r factorial into r factorial. Now, in the previous session, we would have discussed about factorial program. I'll be using the same function over here, factorial function, which is already discussed in the previous class. Now, starting with the program, I will start the program by writing a header file. Here the header file is #include stdio.h. Next line is, I am declaring a function. Here the function is fact is a function which acts as one parameter. And the parameter, what we are parameter argument, we are passing an integer value, which is nothing but n. And the return type of this function is int. And we have declared this function. We have defined the function below the void main. This is the function definition in order to find the factorial of the given number. Okay, now starting with the program, the execution of the program starts with void main. The execution starts from here. When we start executing the program, these are the variable which is declared in the program. N is a variable, R is a variable, RES is a variable. N and R is a variable which is used to hold the N value and R value. And RES result is a variable to hold the result. Now next line is, the user will be asked with a question, enter the value of N and R. As soon as the user sees this question, the user will enter two values. Always the N value should be greater than the R value. Now you are storing, with the help of scanf, I'm storing the N value and R value. For assumption taken, N value is 4, R value is 2. Now 4 is stored in N, R is stored. When the compiler comes to the next line, see, you can observe here the formula what I have explained in the previous slide, the same formula here. N factorial divided by n minus r factorial into r factorial. Now, this is a user-defined function. FACT is a user-defined function. I'm calling the function, the numerator, I'm calling the function with the n variable divided by, again, I'm calling the function with n minus r into fact of r. So I'm calling the function 3 times. The same function has been called 3 times. Now coming with this, first I'm passing the n value. Fact of 4, I'm calling the function fact. See, this is a called function, this is a calling function. When I'm calling the function, I'm passing the n value. We know n value is 4. We are passing the n value. When I pass the n value and call this function, the 4 is copied into this particular variable. 4 is copied into that particular variable, and inside this function I have declared a variable I and f. F is initialized with the value 1. F is initialized with the value 1. Now first what I would like to check is whether the inputted value is 0. I'll check. If it is 0, for example, if I want to find 0 factorial is nothing but 1. That is this base condition. I'm checking the base condition. What is the n value we have entered? The n value what we have entered is 4. I'm checking whether 4 double equals to 0. Is 4 double equals to 0? No, it is false. So what happens? It won't go to this line. It will go to the for loop. When it goes to the for loop, in the first pass, when I value is 1, I'm checking for the condition I less than or equal to n. What is I value? We know I value is 1, less than or equal to n value is 4. Is the condition true? Yes, it is true. Then what we do is we'll find the f value. F value is obtained by, see, we have initialized f value as 1, and we know I value is also initialized to 1. 1 into 1 is 1. 1 will be stored in f. 1 will be stored in f. After storing 1 in f, the for loop repeats. This for loop will repeat unless until this condition becomes false. Now when the for loop repeats, it will increment the I value. Now I value will become 2. In pass 2, what happens? I'm checking for the condition I value is less than or equal to n. What is I value? 2. 2 is less than or equal to 4. Yes, it is true. Again, I will enter into the, again I'll execute this particular statement. When I execute this statement, I'll utilize the updated f value. What is updated f value? 1. So f value is 1 into the updated I value. We know the updated I value is 2. 1 into 2 is 2. Again, what happens after executing the statement? Now the updated of f value will be 2, and I'm incrementing the I value. I value will become 3. When I value becomes 3, again I will check the condition. When I check the condition, what is the condition? 3 is less than or equal to 4. Is 3 less than or equal to 4? Yes, the condition is true. When the condition is true, what we have to do? We have to execute this statement. When I execute that statement, this f value will be the updated f value, and this I value will be the updated I value. So we'll get 2 into 3 is equals to 6. Again, repeat the process. I will become 4. When I becomes 4, I'll check for the condition 4 is less than or equal to 4. Yes, the condition is true. Again, I'll execute this statement. When I execute this statement, you can observe that the previous f value is 6 and the previous updated I value is 4. So 6 4s are 24 we get. Again, I will increment the for loop. When I increment the for loop, I value will become 5. When I value becomes 5, I'll check for the condition 5 is less than or equal to 4. The condition becomes false. When the condition becomes false, I won't execute this statement. I will return f value. What is the f value? The updated f value is 24. 24 is returned to the calling function. Which function called? Fact of n. Fact of 4 called the value. This called the function. So in this calling function, the value 24 will be substituted in this particular place. Now you can observe here, in first pass we got 1, second pass we got 2, third pass we got 6, and fourth pass we got 24. That is 1 into 2. 1 into 2 we got 2, then 2 into 3 we got 6, then 6 into 4 we got 24. This is how we found the factorial of the numerator, that is fact of 4. Similarly, after finding this, the compiler will move to the next function. What is the next function? The next function, for your reference, I've written fact of 4 is equals to 24. When the compiler will go to the next function, here the function called as fact of n minus r. What is n minus r? N value is 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 2 will be passed to this variable. 2 will be passed over here. So after substituting this value 4 minus 2, simplifying it, I'll be passing 2. Now we are finding the factorial of 2. So we are checking whether n double equals to 0. No. That is 2 double equals to 0. No. Again, what we do is we start with the for loop. This for loop again, it is used to find the factorial of the given number. The given number is 2. So I is equals to 2. Yes. Again, checking for the condition y is less than or equal to n. I'm checking what is I value? 1. 1 is less than or equal to 2. True. The condition is true. Then we are finding the fact. F is equals to f into I. What is f value? We know the initial f value is 1 and the I value is initialized to 1. So 1 into 1 is 1. I gets incremented. I will become 2. When I becomes 2, again the looping will take place. Again, we are checking for the condition 2 is less than or equal to 2. Yes, the condition is true. Again, I'll come inside or I'll execute this statement f is equal to f into I. The previous f value and the updated I value, this both will be used. So f is equals to 1 into 2 is 2. Next, what happens after substituting, after evaluating this expression, I will increment I again. I will become 3. When I check for the condition 3 is less than or equal to 2, the condition becomes For here the condition becomes false. Students, this should be false. It is not true, it is false. There is a mistake over here. When the condition becomes false, it won't execute this statement. It will return f. What is the value of f? The updated value of f is 2. 2 will be returned. 2 will be returned to whom? This is the calling function. So 2 will be returned here. So in this you can observe the first, when first function has made a call, 24 was returned. When second function has made a call, 2 was being returned to this. Into, I'm again calling one more function, fact of r. Now when I'm calling the function, r value is 2. Now 2 will be passed to this. The process will be similar to the previous process, because previous year also we found fact of 2. Again we are finding fact of 2. So we are passing 2 to this. We are checking whether nw, that is 2w equals to 0, false. Again we confirm the past one and we'll repeat the loop for I is equals to 1. I is less than or equal to n. Yes. Yeah, that is 1 is less than or equal to 2. Yes, the condition is true. We are finding f value. F is equals to f into I. That is, we'll get f value as 1. Increment I will become 2. Again, I'll check in the second pass. I'll be checking 2 is less than or equal to 2. Yes, the condition is true. Again, I'll find the f value. F is equals to f into I. The previous f value is 1 and the updated I value is 2. So 1 into 2 is 2. Again, I'll increment I will become 3. I will check for the condition. 3 is less than or equal to 2. It is false. Students, again here, this is false. When the condition is false, it won't execute this statement. It will return f value. It will return f value. F value is returned to the calling function. This is a calling function. Now, first calling function has got the value 24. Second calling function has got the value 2. Third calling function has got the value 2. Now, everything will be evaluated in the expression. So, the entire statement looks like this. Result is equals to 24 divided by 2 into 2. Now, what happens? 2 into 2 will be evaluated first according to the BODMAS rule. 2 into 2 is 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Now, 6 will be stored in RES. Then we are printing the result. Now, the output of the program will be binomial coefficient is 6. This is about the binomial coefficient program. Okay, further going with the next talk. The next talk is about storage classes in C. Now, what is storage classes in C? Storage class represents the visibility and the location of the variable. Now, basically, the storage class will tell what part of the code we can access a variable, or from where we can access the variable. Can a function access the variable which is present in the main program, or something like that? It depends upon the storage class. Storage class is described based on the following type. That is, based upon the variable scope that speaks about whether the variable are having a local scope or a global scope. I'll discuss about this. Location, where the variable will be stored, whether the variables belongs to the main program, or the variable belongs to a function, or where it is present, whether the variables are present in the memory location, or whether the variables are stored in the registers. All that speaks about the location of the variable. Initialized value of the variable, whether the variable is holding a junk value or it has got some value. For example, when I'm speaking about the variable storage class, I will tell which are the variable by default it will hold the junk value, or which are the variable will hold the value 0 by default. I'll talk about that. And lifetime of the variable, how long a variable can hold the value, that is nothing but the lifetime of the variable. Or how long the value in the variable will be present, that is nothing but lifetime of the variable. Now, storage classes are classified into 4 types: automatic storage class, register storage class, static storage class, and external storage class. For example, if you want a variable to become a automatic storage, to use an automatic storage class, we have to use a keyword auto space data type name and the variable name, or by default any variable what we declare, that is of the type auto, without using the keyword auto. By default it is declared as auto. For register, we have to use a keyword called as register. Everything should be in a lowercase letter. For static, we have to use static keyword. For extern, we have to use extern keyword. Now let us see in which situation we'll be using this particular storage class. Now before going with the explanation of the variables, storage class variables, let us see what is local variable and what is global variable. Now, here I've written a sample example program to show the difference between local variable and global variable. Declared in the local scope, declared in the global scope. Now, what is local scope? Local scope is nothing but inside the main program, inside the function. It's called as local scope. That inside this function, whatever variable we declare, that is called as local variable. Inside this, it's called as local variable. Outside the functions, when you write the variable, for example, below the header file, if you write int of x comma y, they have something called as global scope, we call it as. So that is your first point. Declared inside the local scope. This is the local scope. That is, this C belongs to this add. This C belongs to this particular open and close braces, and the function is add. Again, Z belongs to the main function. That is local scope. X and Y belongs to X and Y can be accessed by this function as well as this function. Hence, it is called as global variable or global scope. Okay. Second point is declared within the function. That's what we discussed. Int of C is declared for add function. Int A, B, and C belongs to add function. Int Z belongs to the main function. Declared outside all the function. We have declared the global variable outside the function X and Y. This can be accessed by this or this. Also, this is called as, this ABC is called as internal variable, or Z is called internal variable because it internally belongs to only to main. This ABC belongs to only to add. These are called as internal variable. Whereas in global variable, X and Y is called as external variable because anybody can access this X and Y since it is declared globally. When declared in a local scope, suppose if I declare the variable in the local scope, if I don't initialize this particular variable, if I don't store any value to this variable, by default, this variable will hold a garbage value. This variable will be holding a garbage value, that is some unknown value. If you are declaring a global variable outside the function, this variable will hold the value 0. Automatically, it will be initialized to 0. It won't hold a garbage value. It will hold the value 0. This is the difference between the local variable and global variable. Now moving forward with the storage class, the first storage class is auto storage class. Now if I declare the variable, these are the 4 points you have to remember. Now in auto storage class, the value will be stored in the memory. We'll be storing the data. That is, the value will be stored in the memory. Computer memory, we are going to store the value. The default initial variable declared of the type auto, it will have a garbage value. It will have a garbage value. For example, int auto int I is equals to 10. Now the keyword auto is used to tell that this I is a variable which is of the type auto. If I don't initialize the value 10, if I don't initialize, I will have the garbage value. That is what they're trying to tell. The default initial value will be garbage value. And the memory will be allotted in the secondary storage device. The memory will be applied, the value will be stored in the storage device. Memory it will be stored. Then scope, local to the block in which the variable belongs. Now block in the sense, see this open and close braces is one block, we call it as. This is the main block. Again, this open and close braces is one block. Now here what we have written is auto int I is equals to 10. Now auto int I is equals to 10. This I variable belongs to this outer block. Now this I is a variable which belongs to the inner block. This is called as one block, right? What is the lifespan or lifetime they've asked? Till the control remains within the block in which the variable is defined. Means the meaning of this is, when I have written this program, when I execute this program, the compiler will come to this line, the compiler will come to this line, the compiler will store the value of 10 inside the variable I in a particular memory location. When the compiler comes to this line, 20 will be assigned to I in a different memory location. When I'm trying to print the value of I, this will print the value of I20 because now this variable is present in this block. So it will only access this value and print it. After printing this value, when it comes out of this value, it will forget about this. This is no more, this will be ignored. When you come out of the block, the lifespan is vanished. This particular variable will not hold any value. When you come out of the block and print the I value, now what in this particular block, what is the I value? The I value is 10. 10 will be printed over here. So the output will be the value of I. First it will be printing this, and the value of I again it will be printing the outer value of I. This speaks about automatic storage class. Coming to register storage class, again the register storage class is quite similar to automatic storage class. The only difference in register storage class is when I use a keyword register int of I, the value, the variable, the value will be stored in register rather than the main memory. So we know that accessing the register variable is faster compared to accessing the data which is present in the secondary memory. So this is the program. Now the storage is CPU register. Default, again, it will hold the garbage value. It is local to the block in which the variable is defined. Yes, it is local. It belongs, this register I belongs to this particular block. And Next thing is scope, lifespan. That is, unless until I terminate the program, that is till the control remains within the block. This I belongs to this particular block. Still, after once the task is done, when we come out of the main program, the I value will be vanished. Still, still as long as I remain in the program, the I value will be retained. Here, what we are doing is we are updating the I value. First, we are printing the I value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. We are printing the I value. The same program will hold good. You can replace the auto with register. That will be that also can be written as example for this program also. Coming to the next variable, static variable, very important. Now again, the storage is main memory. I can store it in the value gets stored in the main memory. The initial value, the default initial value is 0, whereas the previous two was junk value. Here by default, it will initialize the value 0. The scope remains same as that of the previous one. Now, only thing is you have to know about the life of this variable. Value of the variable persists between different functions. What do you mean by persist? That is, the value the updated value will be retained between the two functions. Now, how do we justify this? Let us see a small example program for this. I've taken the difference between auto variable and a static variable. Now, in this program, you can modify the program. In this program, I've written a function called as increment. Void increment is the user-defined function. Now, main program, I'm calling this increment function twice. I'm calling this increment function. Now, I've written the body part for this function, where inside this body part, I've written auto int I is equals to 1. And I'm printing I value. When I print I value, first it will print the I value as 1. Second, when I'm incrementing I value, I will become 2. We know I will become 2. But I'm not printing anything. After I becoming 2, I'll come back. This is the calling function. The called function, I value is printed, I is incremented. After doing this job, again, I'll come back to the calling function. When we see again, we are calling the same function. When I'm calling the function again, the updated value of I will not be present, because once you come out of this scope, once you go out of this scope, again, the I will start with 1. When I'm printing I, again, 1 will be printed. Again, I will increment, I will become 2. When I'll come back here, I will find there is no other statement to be executed. So I'll stop the program. So here I'll be executing 1 and 1. Right? So once you come out of this called function, the I value will be destroyed. Our I value will start with the initial value again. Whereas in static variable, the same program, instead of auto, I've written static. In this way, in this program, what happens is, first when I'm calling an increment function, it will come to this. And we have initialized I value as 1, and I variable belongs to a static storage class. When I'm printing I value will be printed. I will update I value will become 2. Now, when after incrementing the I value, I'll come back to the calling function. The next line, we again see there is a calling function. When I call the function, what happens is the updated value I2 will be printed on the monitor screen. Now, though I go back and again I come back, the previous value of I will be retained. That is what they're trying to tell here. The value of the variable persists between different function calls. This value remains updated. The updated values will be used any number of times you call this particular function, where here once you come out of this function, the value will become 0, or the value will become the initial value will be set. This is about your static storage class. Coming to the last storage class, we have something called as external storage class. In external storage class, what happens is, in external storage class, now why do we use this external storage class? External storage class, we use this keyword extern. Again, it should be a lowercase letter. Students, don't use capital E, it should be a lowercase letter. EXTER stands for the external storage class. Suppose if you're trying to refer to the variable which belongs to 2 or more files, that is, when the communication is happening between two different programs, if I wanted to refer from one program, the variable belonging to this to another program, will use a keyword called as extern. But by default, the initial value will be 0. Again, the storage memory, it will be storing it in memory. Scope is, it has got a global scope. And the lifespan, as long as the program execution does not come to an end, as long as the execution does not come to an end, the variable value will be retained. Now, coming to this external program, I've written two programs, file1.c, file2.c, a very simple example program, and I've declared a variable extern I. Now, I is a variable which is of the type extern, and I've written void main, open and close braces. The value of the external variable is equals to %di. I'm printing the value of the variable I. We don't know what is the value of I. because we know what is the value of I, because value of I is 0. But we are trying to refer to the value of I which is present in the different program. Now in the different program, we have written file2.c. In this, we have included an header file called as #include stdio.h, and we have included this program by using #include. When I'm trying to include my own program as an header file, I'll be using two double quotes, file1.c, and I've written I is equals to 48. Now value of I is 48. This value of I is been referred by this external variable, and I'll be printing the value. When I print the value, the output of the program will be 48. 48 will be printed on the monitor screen. The value of the external variable is 48. 48 will be printed. So this is one program and this is one program. From one program, we are accessing the variable which belongs to another program with the help of the external, with the help of the keyword called as extern, which is one of the storage class. This is all about the storage class. Thank you.